70,000 people are here, and then Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by the true story.
For anyone who's gonna hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, BD.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
A science story, huh?
These NYU scientists,
It
felt
right.
But I was so
And I just thought, well,
I had figured it out.
It was that golden moment.
Because science was on my side.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Story Clutter, where true personal stories about science help us to discover how weird and wonderful it is to exist in this world and be a human. I'm your host, Misha Gajewski, and today's episode is all about gambling. I mean that in both the literal Las Vegas playing the slot sense and in the more figurative way of taking a chance on something sense. Our first story is from Mexican-American computer engineer Beatriz Perez. Beatriz's story was recorded at the MIT Museum in Boston. Her story is such a heartwarming story of succeeding against all the odds. You're gonna love it. Here's Beatriz.
Jackpot! The loud music and slot machines surround my parents and I as we walk through the smoke-filled game room. We still have our warm coffees in our hands, complimentary from the casino, of course. As I'm walking through the aisles, I'm mesmerized by the craziness and chaos all around me when suddenly I'm pulled onto the black vinyl chair with a too bright screen in front of me. My eyes are starting to adjust and I'm making out the slot machine, and in front of me I see animals. Monkeys, elephants, and giraffes are dancing, calling my name, telling me to put my money in and test my luck. I look down at the purse in my lap and I open it to see my first paycheck. My first paycheck from my first job working as an electrical engineer. My first job straight out of college, already making 6 figures. I feel proud of myself. And as I look over at my mom and I look over at my dad, I see them nodding at me and encouraging me to use the fruits of my labor and gamble it. You see, I know the odds of winning are low and I don't really want to gamble it, but my parents want me to. So I just do. I take a crisp $20 bill out of my purse and I feed it into the machine. I look over at my dad and he's smiling and I'm starting to get excited. The monkeys, elephants, and giraffes are dancing. But then my $20 slowly creeps to 10 and then to 5. My first paycheck from my first job, and I'm already losing it. This actually wasn't my first job. I actually had my first job when I was 10. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. on the dot, my dad would pack up my family and I in our little black Ford Explorer and drive us to a park a few miles away from our home in Oklahoma. My little sister and I would sit in the back seat, wedged between tables and coolers and chairs. My dad would put the hot pot of corn, or elotes as we call it, in between my sister and I. And we both had the job of each grabbing onto the handle. And my dad's a crazy driver, so with every twist and turn, we'd have to hold on a little harder, hoping we didn't get third-degree burns. You see, my family sold Mexican snacks at the park on Sunday to try to get a little bit more money to make ends meet. And as we pulled out to the park, I would look over and see my friends in the playground, and I wish I could go play with them, but I can't. I have a job to do. At 10, I work the cash register. My parents, they depend on me. My mom, she insists I use the calculator, worried I'll somehow fumble up the numbers and make my family lose money. But my dad, he insists I use my mind and encourages me to use my brain. I think my dad knew my love of math even before I did. Every Monday through Saturday, my dad would walk home from work with dirt and sweat caked on his face. His legs were so tired, they'd barely be able to drag him in. He'd have to get changed into clean clothes, and he'd always catch me looking at him and giggling. He'd say, "Betty, what's so funny? Why are you laughing at me?" And I'd have to explain, "Dad, it's because you look just like Neapolitan ice cream." My dad would look at me with a weird look and say, "Betty, what's Neapolitan ice cream? Why is that so funny?" And silly dad, I had to explain to him, "Let me tell you, it's because your skin, it's so sunburnt and sun damaged. It's as brown as chocolate, and your skin freshly burnt and so bright, it's as pink as strawberry. And when you take your shirt off, your belly is as white as vanilla." My dad would look over at me and give me a weird look, but still laugh it off. But I don't think he really thought that joke was funny. Late at night, I'd walk into the kitchen to get a late night snack, and I'd catch my dad hovered over the table, jotting down in his notebooks. He'd look over at me and call me over and say, "Betty, have you learned this in school yet?" And when I'd say no, his eyes would glow up, and he'd teach me how to find the surface area of a chimney or the circumference of a fire pit. And then he'd wait for the thousands of questions I'd ask, excited to answer every single one of them. I think my dad really liked talking math to me since he could actually teach me things, because often I had to be the one to teach him. Every Sunday morning in our fancy church clothes, my dad would walk up to the McDonald's cashier and order un pancake for breakfast. The cashier would tilt his head and give him the weirdest look, and my dad would look over at me with a shrug and a smile. I'd say, "Pancake." And then I'd proceed to teach my dad the whole McDonald's breakfast menu and how to pronounce it in proper English. Whenever my mom had a doctor's appointment and she needed a translator, I'd have to sit with my dad the night before and teach him how to call me out of school. I'd have to teach him how to say my name in English since he didn't know how to say that, and the office ladies wouldn't know my name in Spanish. I'd go over with him, "Beatriz Perez, Miss Foster's 4th grade," and he'd anxiously be jotting it all down in the journal. I was always excited to get called out of school, just as long as my dad agreed not to call me out during math class, because it was my favorite time of the school day. Well, that is, after lunch. One week in math class, we learned about fractions and percentages, and that's when I realized, my dad may be good at geometry with all his construction stuff, but I don't think he's really good at statistics. The percentage of people that actually win a few bucks from the lottery is really less than 1%, but I don't think he really understood that, because every single Friday, he'd come up to me with 5 new lottery tickets, still sticky and sweaty from being in his pocket all week. And he'd ask me to check them because he didn't know how. But because of the odds, I had to be the one to break it to him that we weren't a part of that 1% and we weren't winners. But he kept buying them every single week. And honestly, I think he envisioned a future for us with those tickets. A future where we didn't have to sell at the park on Sunday. A future where he could buy my family anything we ever dreamed of without having to work in the hot heat. A future where he didn't have to depend on his oldest daughter. Over 10 years, week after week, I was slowly met with the familiar truth that we'd have to sell at the park again on Sunday. As I chipped away at my dad's dream, I always wondered, if he knew the odds, would he still have hope? Back at the slot machines with my parents, my disappointment is continuing to grow. More when I look over at my dad and I see the frown on his face. My parents were probably expecting me to be a winner, but I failed them. But suddenly, the monkeys, elephants, and giraffes aren't just singing, they're dancing. My $5 turns into 10, 100, finally 500. The machine's going off. The probability of me winning was low, but somehow I did it. Through the love of math that my dad helped me explore and the independence I've gained as the oldest daughter, I've made it as an engineer. I don't have to worry about the money struggles my immigrant parents did, and my future kids, they can play with their friends on Sunday, just like I always wished I could. I did it. I won the lottery. And as I look over at my mom, and I look over at my dad, and I see the way they look and smile at me, I just know they think they've won it too.
That was Beatrice. I still can't believe she spent her very first paycheck on a slot machine, but I guess sometimes you gotta risk it for the biscuit. To learn more about Beatrice, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Being a storyteller on stage is just one way to make story clatter happen, but if standing alone in a spotlight in front of an audience doesn't speak to you, maybe becoming a story clatter donor might be more your speed. Story clatter donors play a vital role in our ability to bring you this podcast. We're in this together. Story Collider is one big experiment that's designed to connect us around our love of discovery, curiosity, and the natural world. If you believe in the power these stories have and this mission, please donate to the Story Collider at storycollider.org/donate. The most popular level is $10 a month, and you can make your tax-deductible donation at storycollider.org/donate. But really, any level makes a difference, and we're so grateful to everyone who supports Story Collider. Every year, 47 million women enter menopause, yet only 6% of those seeking treatment actually get it. Why? Women over 40 have been ignored by the healthcare system for far too long. Alloy is here to change that. Alloy is the no BS solution to aging healthfully. They provide FDA-approved treatments for menopause symptoms prescribed by menopause-trained doctors who truly understand what you're going through. Plus, you get unlimited, ongoing care. Message your doctor anytime, from anywhere. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. Everything is done online and delivered right to your door with free shipping. Also, don't miss out on their skincare, hair care, and sexual wellness solutions, all designed for women over 40. Visit myalloy.com and discover a better way to thrive through menopause. And as a special treat, Story Collider listeners can enjoy $20 off their first order. Just use promo code COLLIDER anytime between now and March 31st, 2025.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Our next story is from comedian Dave Piontkowski. His story was recorded at QED Astoria in Queens, New York. And if you're a fan of stories with high stakes and poop, then Dave's story is definitely going to be your favorite story of the year. The story is so funny and also gives a whole new meaning to the game craps. Here's Dave.
So I suffer from severe ulcerative colitis. Round of applause if you're familiar with it. Okay. For those that don't know, it's inflammation of the colon. It means I shit more than all of you combined. I go to the bathroom a lot, and this wrecked my 20s. My 20s, a majority was just spent trying different medications to figure out, what do you do about this colitis? How do you solve it? How do you get healthy? And nothing was working. Medication after medication. And eventually, by my late 20s, I was at the point of trying clinical trials, high-risk clinical trials. And even those didn't work. And I was so depressed. Colitis, at its peak, symptoms for me, I would go to the bathroom 15 times a day, maybe more. Yeah. You don't want to leave the house. You become like an incel. You just don't want to do anything. Oh my God. Yeah. It's a brutal, brutal disease. And I just had to leave I had little medications that helped a little bit, but to do the clinical trial, I had to get off of everything, everything. And I don't know if I got a placebo or if I got the real thing, but whatever I got, it didn't work. And, and I needed surgery. I knew I needed surgery. And right at that point is when my brother John called me up. John, my brother, he runs a business selling wrestling figures on the internet. John, if you're listening, that's the biggest laugh so far. So, yeah, he got some cool hookups. And one of the cool hookups he got was for the UFC. They were doing toys, and he was working with them. And he got complimentary tickets to their big 4th of July weekend show. And he said, hey, Dave, I got these tickets. I got complimentary hotel room. Just have to figure out the flight. Do you want to come? And at the time, I'm pooping like 15 times a day. Should not be going to Las Vegas. I live in New York. It's a big trip for a guy who does that much shitting. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Because I knew I needed surgery, and I thought, what if this is the last trip I take? What if the surgery goes wrong and I never get to travel again? I have to take this opportunity. I have to do something to get out of this rut. It had just been so crippling for me. So I said yes. And before I could even get on a flight from New York to Las Vegas, my mother emailed me articles about everyone who got murdered in Las Vegas that week. In case my anxiety wasn't high enough with the crapping all the time, but okay. So I get on the flight. I used every bathroom on that plane. I bombed so many bathrooms that I should be on the no-fly list. It was, aisle seat, of course, because I had to move around a lot. But I made it through the flight, and I got to Las Vegas. And now my brother comes up to me, and he says, hey, we're going to get dinner with some of my corporate contacts at UFC. And I'm like, oh, great. Except I'm not really eating much at the time. Because I'm going to the bathroom so much, I'm barely eating at home. There would be days where my colitis was so severe, I would have 1 can of tuna for the entire day. I would starve myself. You guys think Ozempic is a good weight loss drug? Try ulcerative colitis. Oh my God. I was so thin. So we go to this dinner, and now I'm afraid to eat anything because I'm not on any medications to help me out. I'm just kind of riding the wave of like, I have peak colitis symptoms, and this is a Michelin star restaurant. The finest foods you could want. Yeah. A5 Wagyu, bluefin tuna, and I can't touch anything. But I'm hungry. I have to eat something, and it's so tempting. I eat a little here, I eat a little there. Before I know it, I'm going to the bathroom half a dozen times. I go to the bathroom so much that the bathroom attendant became my doorman. Yeah, I would see the guy. First off, his name was Vincent. I started giving him a nickname by the second trip. I'm like, hey, Vinny. I started getting his backstory through the times I'm going into this bathroom. He's from Brooklyn, separated from his wife. He's out here, got into some gambling debt, and now he's working as a bathroom attendant at this restaurant. But he's a nice guy. He's a local. He's from Brooklyn. I'm from Long Island. We're local. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So Vinny's real cool to me, even though I am just destroying the bathroom, and he is feet away, and I feel so bad for him. And by the end, by like the 6th, 7th movie, I'm just like, Vinny, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I took so many dumps in your office. And Vinny was so cool. He's like, hey, don't worry about it. Everybody takes a dump in my office. I'm like, look, well, here's something for your trouble. I pulled out $20, tipped him. I know. If you knew what he went through, you'd be like, that's low. But it was a big tip, and his eyes lit up. He's like, hey, anything you want. You want candy? You want cologne? Anything. Take it. You got it. I'm like, I'm Vinny. I'm good. And then as I'm leaving, He goes, how about some cocaine? Vinny, the only way I'm touching that cocaine is if you cut it up with Imodium. I was not in the state of mind or my body in the state to be doing any of that. But I go to the UFC show, and now throughout the UFC show, I'm just rooting for quick knockouts and first round finishes. I want maximum toilet time, okay? The longer they're in the clinch, the longer I'm in the clinch. And I am just praying I can make it through the show. And I did. I had a good time in spite of my illness. And I wrap up with this UFC show, and my brother's friend is with us, and he turns to me and he goes, hey, do you want to go gamble? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, well, what game do you think we should play? And I was like, well, how about craps? I mean, kind of fits what I'm doing a lot. So yeah, let's play craps. And he's like, oh yeah. So we go play craps. Now I've played craps a few times, not like super familiar with it. Just round of applause if you've played craps, you're familiar with the game. Are you? Okay, so I'm gonna have to explain it. Not casino people at Story Collider. That's good. Oh, good. Well, that's okay. That's okay. So craps, it's a dice-based game, and it's at a big table, and everyone bets on how the person rolling the dice, what they're rolling, if they're winning or losing, and like 95% of people bet that the person who's rolling is winning. So everyone, as like you're rolling, people are excited. They're winning as well. And I have the dice in my hand, and I'm rolling, and I'm winning. And oh, I got frat bros high-fiving me, like, sick, bro. As my chip stack is getting bigger, I got prostitutes eyeing me out. Maybe he's not so sickly and thin. Oh, my God. I had Elvis impersonators in the corner. Every time I'd roll their number, they go, thank you. Thank you very much. It was amazing. I don't know if you've ever been on this high, but it's incredible. For about 10 to 15 minutes until my stomach starts responding. And I got to use the bathroom. I got to poop. And I can't leave the game because I'm rolling the dice. But I figure, okay, well, I'll just explain the situation to my friend and no big deal. And I turned to him and I said, hey, so I got to use the bathroom, so I'm going to go, and, you just roll the dice. He's like, no, that's not how it works. You're rolling, and you're winning, so you're staying. And I go, yeah, but I might have an accident. And then he points to his chip stack, and he says, look how much money I've won. I will buy you new pants and underwear. You are staying. And I said, okay, I'm going to stay, but I'm reluctantly staying. I knew I had to go, but I thought, how much longer could I keep winning? And I keep rolling, and another 10 minutes goes by, and I am feeling it. I'm clinching. I am feeling the peer pressure externally, and also like the pressure inside my body of like, oh my God, I'm going to have an accident. Like, I need to get through this game. Another 5-10 minutes goes by, and I'm still rolling and winning, and this is brutal. Now I just want to lose. I am praying to lose. Have you ever been winning in Vegas and said, boy, I'd really like to lose right now? That's how I felt. I was struggling. I was like sweating. I'm just like, oh, please let this end. I look over to my friend and he's like, oh, I'm one number away from the fire bet. Dude, there's a fire in my asshole right now. And I'm about to explode. So another few minutes goes by, another 10 minutes, and another 10 minutes, and I'm just like, just deep breaths, trying to make it through. And finally, I rolled the dice, and I hit a 7, and I lost. And the whole table went, oh. And I went, yes, victory, because now I can leave and go to the bathroom. I gathered up my chips as fast as humanly possible, and now the race to find the bathroom at MGM Grand Casino. You ever try to look for a bathroom at a big Las Vegas casino? Oh my God, it is tough. I am running around this casino. People are inebriated, intoxicated. They're just, not moving fast. And there's slot machines and lights all over the place. And I can't find the bathroom, and I crap my pants. And now I gotta Go to the elevator, awkward elevator ride up to the hotel room. I throw out the underwear. I throw the pants in my luggage, and I try not to think about it. And 2 days later, I'm back in New York, and I'm unpacking my suitcase, and I pull out the pants, and I hear something. It's the chips from MGM Grand. I never got to cash them. Thank you.
That was Dave. If you'd like to learn more about him, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Our website is just one way to connect with Storyclatter, but there are so many other ways, and we hope you'll use them all. You can always follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Head to storyclatter.org to become a financial supporter, or if you want to come to one of our shows, start your own Storyclatter show in your community, or even learn how to tell your own science story, you can learn all about that on our website too. This podcast is produced by me, Misha Gajewski, along with Jun Chen, Nikisha Roberts-Washington, and Aaron Barker, Executive Director and co-founder of The Storyclatter. The stories featured in today's episode were produced by Ari Daniel, Catherine Wu, Christine Williams, and Grant Bowen. Special thanks goes out to Storyclatter's board and team. Our theme music is by Ghost, and we'll be back next week with another Best of Storyclatter episode from our archive. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.